Heaven is not what you think it is.
As a pastor, I've discovered a lot of Christians are afraid of heaven. Why would that be? When we misunderstand the nature of heaven, that affects kind of everything. Let me just ask one question for the sake of this video, and that's, will we eat and drink in heaven? Will there be food, for example, in heaven?
Ruslan.
Gavin Ortlund did a beautiful video on the topic of heaven and how heaven is not what you think it is. Okay, so shout out to Gavin Ortlund. He will be at the Bless God Summit, but we'll have more on that later. Let's jump into this video. It is called Heaven is Not What You Think. All right.
As a pastor, I've discovered a lot of Christians are afraid of heaven. Why would that be? I think one factor is we don't understand that it will be physical. Even though in the Apostles' Creed, we say, I believe in the resurrection of the body and the life everlasting, what we tend to think is more like, I believe in the survival of the soul and the life everlasting. In my video on the Apostles' Creed, I talk a little bit more about that. But I think this is really important because when we misunderstand the nature of heaven, that affects kind of everything. Heaven, for Christians, for followers of Jesus, heaven is supposed to be the great hope of our life. And if you're not a Christian, heaven, the idea of heaven, should be maybe one of the things that makes you consider Christianity the most, because if it's that happy, it's worth looking into. So we want to understand heaven accurately. Let me just ask one question for the sake of this video, and that's, will we eat and drink in heaven? Will there be food, for example, in heaven? And I want to make the argument that yes, we will. And even though that might seem like a very specific conclusion to arrive upon, I think it actually is a window into some broader questions that can help us look forward to heaven and understand its physicality. At the end of this video, I'll flesh that out just a little bit. So here's my case.
Okay, so I love that he points out something very significant, which is physicality, that heaven will be physical, and that the resurrection is ultimately what's pointing to heaven. It's a physical reality, not just a spiritual reality. And I think some of us have grown up with this idea. Listen, I've had folks teach me that you won't remember anything from earth when you're in heaven. You won't remember your life when you're on earth. When you're in heaven, you'll just be a spirit up there somewhere, and all you'll do is just worship God nonstop, and that will be your entire existence. So you won't remember your family, you won't remember your life, you will just sing worship songs floating around like angels. And when you think of all that sort of stuff, I love worship like the next person. When you think of all sort of that stuff, you go, that sounds weird, right? But the resurrection of Jesus, and that we believe in a physical resurrection, is the foreshadowing of what heaven will be like, that we will be physical beings, that the things that we experience on this side of eternity that are amazing will also experience to some degree in the new heaven and new earth, that it's a physical new heaven and a physical new earth, right?
When we think about heaven, the best way to start is with Jesus, and specifically his resurrected body.
Amen.
The resurrected body of Jesus tells us what heaven will be like. Easter morning is a kind of prototype or blueprint for heaven. Why do we say that? Well, Paul calls Jesus' resurrection the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. This is a farming metaphor. The first fruits is the first batch of a harvest that tells you about the rest of the crop. So if you imagine you're standing like in the movie Field of Dreams or something like that, you're looking at a huge field of corn, and you go up and you pluck off one bit and see what it's like, and it's a representative sample that will tell you what the rest of the crop will be like. This is what it's like for Jesus' resurrection, and then the rest of us who trust in Jesus. He's the prototype, he's the representative sample. What happened to his body is what will happen to us. We'll have a resurrected body like Jesus.
Yeah, and Paul said, like, if Jesus didn't rise from the dead, then we are to be the most pitied of everybody. Right? As Christians, like, if the resurrection is false, we are to be the most pitied. That means that there is nothing after this. That means that everything that Christianity is anchored on is a lie, and there's no hope. There's no hope for a new heaven and a new earth.
This is why all throughout church history, it's been so important for Christians to reject Gnosticism and the denial of the body. But it's not.
And that's very prevalent, right? I understand that there is a sinful body that we live in on this side of eternity, our flesh. But oftentimes within many Christian circles, we start speaking down on anything physical and material, any pleasure, anything we enjoy here and now. And we slide into a functional Gnosticism, meaning that Gnosticism teaches that the body is bad, the material world is bad, and you need to elevate yourself and be more spiritual, and so on and so forth. And that's problematic because we serve a God that came in a material, physical body.
Just our bodies. Physical bodies need a physical environment to function in.
That's right.
We're not going to be floating in the netherworld. Our bodies won't need astronaut suits in heaven. Paul actually teaches that all creation will participate in the glory of the children of God. Note the verb obtain here in Romans 8:21. And this is why Revelation 21 speaks of a new heaven and a new earth.
That's right.
Where God says, I'm making all things new. Now, the word new here doesn't mean brand new, like ex nihilo or from scratch. It means renewed or resurrected redeemed.
Come on.
It's new in the sense that Jesus' Easter morning body is new. It was the same body, but it was resurrected.
Yeah.
Jesus didn't obliterate his old body and then create a new one ex nihilo. Similarly, God doesn't obliterate the world of Genesis 1 and then whisk us away. He resurrects this world. His redemption is as wide as creation, like the hymn puts it, far as the curse is found. I like
That's beautiful. And by the way, Gavin Ortland will be at our Bless God Summit happening next weekend, March 27th, 28th, 29th. If you are near Southern California, you should get your tickets. This is going to be amazing. We have virtual tickets, but I think so many of you guys need to come in person. We just released the full schedule, and Gavin Ortland is actually doing a breakout on day 2 on the topic of handling disagreement. Okay, so day 2. Also, we have David Wood and Alex O'Connor, the debate happening day 2, Friday, March 28th. So if you're anywhere near Southern California, get yourself here. You could hear Gavin Ortland in person. Come hang out with us at the Bless God Summit. All right, let's come back to this video.
that language. So just think of it like this. After the return of Christ, after final resurrection, final judgment, when the new heavens and new earth are inaugurated, the people of God will dwell with God in a resurrected world. That will be a theater for the glory of God.
Come on.
And Easter is the first fruits of that.
Yeah.
So this is why theologians call Easter morning the beginning of the new creation, the emergence within history of the life of the world to come, the embryonic principle of cosmic transformation, the womb of the new eon, the beginning of the new and final world order. Think of Easter morning as
Easter morning is the foreshadowing of that, meaning when Jesus rises from the grave.
the antidote starting to spread throughout the rest of the body, bringing healing everywhere there is sickness. Now, why is this such good news? Because of the nature of Jesus' resurrected body. Jesus' resurrection body is a new kind of reality. It has no precedent in either history or eternity. It's as new as Genesis 1:1 is new. You can think of Easter morning as created reality 2.0. So, because here you have this body that's physical and yet permanent. Jesus is never going to die again. You know, in our bodies, our cells start to decline in function and they have a reduced ability to divide and replicate over time and so forth. Our bodies start to break down after a while. Jesus' resurrection body doesn't go through that. In the year 90 or 110 AD, 60 to 80 years after having a resurrected body, Jesus is not getting any gray hair. The book of Hebrews calls his power or his life the power of an indestructible life. I like that word indestructible there. So Jesus doesn't just come back to life, he comes back to a new kind of life.
Yeah.
Unlike others who are resurrected, like Lazarus and had to die again, Jesus came back to a permanent, indestructible life, and yet it's still a physical body. This is like, nothing like this has ever happened until Easter morning. For example, when he appears to the disciples in Luke 24, he's saying, touch me and see. He's trying to reassure them that he's not a spirit or a ghost. And he's saying, a spirit does not have flesh and bones as you see that I have. And then he says, basically, give me some fish to eat, and he eats the fish. So here you have the resurrected body of Jesus, and he says, I have flesh and bones.
The beautiful part is that he's eating food, he's enjoying company, he's hanging out, he's on earth for 40 more days. And what Gavin is getting at is that that's a foreshadowing of what we can expect in heaven. I think that's fire. That's beautiful. Go watch Gavin's entire video on this, guys. I think you guys will really be blessed by it. And again, Gavin Ortland will be with us live at the Bless God Summit. You can get a virtual ticket for $50. You can get yourself there in person if you're near Southern California. Tickets are on sale. This is going to be amazing. So Bless God Summit, March 27th, 28th, 29th here, Southern California, Carlsbad at the Westin. I can't wait to be with some of you guys in person. Hey, thank you so much for checking out the video. Please be sure to comment below and subscribe and all that good stuff. And check out this other video that YouTube seems to be recommending just for you. Let me know if they nailed it. All right? I'll see you over there. Peace.